Hello, this is a brief training video on the Raizer emergency lifting chair. The Raizer is an emergency lifting chair that is assembled around a fallen resident. Once fully assembled, you are able to operate the chair to move them into a seated or perching position. So the first thing we're going to cover off is the individual components of the Raizer chair. It's made up of two main packages. You've got the seat unit here, and in this backpack you've got the lifting arms and the backrests. So if we make a start with the seat unit, first remove the elasticated cover, and if I turn this round, you'll see that it's got an emergency stop cable. Where this emergency stop cable is located is the same place in which the battery is charged from. So to complete a lift, you would have to insert the emergency stop it's got a magnetic end, so it locates itself. If we turn the unit on, you can see that there is a battery indicator and also an up and down arrow housed actually on the unit. If we flip it round, you'll see that again there is an up and down arrow on this side. This is actually the remote control. So by firmly pushing one end of the remote control, you can prise it off, simple up and down arrow, and it will call for you for the remote if the remote is removed whilst it's not in operation. So that's the seat unit. If we move on to the backpack, I'll open it up. We spin it round, you'll see that there's a really simple how-to guide on putting the Raizer together, right inserted in this backrest. So in here there is a number of components. The first ones that will come out are the backrests. These are completely identical, and you have a seat belt which is able to slide up and down on the backrest. When you receive yours, it is likely that your seat belt will be detached from the unit, so you'll need to slide it down from the top to attach the seat belt. So there's two identical backrests, and then we'll move on to the lifting arms. There's four of these, completely identical, a wheel on one end, and on the other end you can use that to locate into the seat unit of the Raizer chair. Finally, in the backpack here, we have the charger and various other components and a user manual. So as you can see, the backpack has some housing for the different parts, so they'll come out in the order in which you need them. So to put it back into its backrest, you'll see that there's space made for the seat, the leg, and then the backrests likewise locate in the backpack, like so. So that's the main components of the Raizer chair. You'll see what they all do in a moment when we move on to demonstrating it and how it works. So when you have a resident that's had a fall, the first thing that you would do is to assess whether they've had a non-injury fall or whether they are harmed. We're working on the assumption that Terry has had a non-injury fall. So the first thing you would do is you would encourage the resident to lift their knees. Some will obviously be able to do that themselves, but what we're trying to achieve is an open area underneath the knees in which we can slide the seat unit under. So with the black panel facing towards the head of the client, you then slide this underneath their legs, making it roughly central and firm up against the thighs. Then with the backrests, identical as discussed before, you then encourage the resident to cross their arms, and this will move their shoulder blade slightly away from the ground, and you are able to slide the backrest into place. Then moving around to the other side, you encourage the resident to move across this arm, or move the shoulder blade out of the way again, and you can just push the next one in. So the next step, it's critical that you put the safety belt on next. It's mainly for reassurance, and you can slide it up and down the backrest if the resident is to need more upper body support. Then with the 4 identical lifting arms, you slot them into the different housing around the edge of the Raizer, like so. And each time you slot one in, you get a confirmation tone that it has been put in correctly. So as you can hear, the last one changed tone slightly, and the light on the lifting motor has turned green, which indicates that we're safe to lift. So then, by removing the remote control from the side panel, you go around to the back of the resident and ensure to support their head in the first stages of the lift. Pressing the up arrow on the remote control, gently support the head as it lifts up, and just press and continue to hold the button until they're at a satisfactory height. Often it's wise to stop here just to make sure that the resident has got their bearings before continuing on to the rest of the lift. Using maybe a stand aid or a Zimmer, you can put that in front of the resident and carry on till the top part of the lift. So when it's its full height, perching height, we'll make a tone to say that it will go no higher, and the resident can then be supported and can mobilise away. So now that you're aware of how to operate the Raizer chair, we're just going to quickly cover off some key bits of information that we think you should be aware of. So the Raizer chair in total weighs 13 kg. The seat unit is 8.5 kg, definitely the heaviest part, and then we've got the carry case here, which is 4.5 kg. So the battery capacity on the Raizer chair will enable you to do about 80 lifts on a full charge. It does have a battery indicator on the side, as previously mentioned, so if we turn it on, you'll see that there's green light showing. As the capacity of the battery reduces, over time being used, you'll see that the green lights disappear and the last one turns red, which indicates you need to charge it. But even when it's red, you still will be able to do a few more lifts. The charging time of the unit is about 6 hours to get it to full capacity. Now, it can be left on charge, and often in a care home we'd recommend that it is, simply because there's no damage caused to the battery by leaving it on charge, and you can be confident that whenever you need it, it's going to be ready. Should you find that the Raizer chair is flat when you come to use it, it will take around 10 minutes to have enough capacity within the battery to operate and do one lift. The other thing to be aware of is where you can actually use the Raizer chair. So as long as the surface on which you're working on is flat or even, you are able to use the chair, be that grass, tiles, laminate flooring. Due to how it's designed, it can operate on many different surfaces, and therefore, as long as it's flat, you can be confident that you'll be able to operate the lift. Thank you very much for watching this video, and all the very best with using your Raizer chair.